Hi, this is Gabrielle Hase. Welcome to the next installment of the CatDogFish Cast, the best podcast you'll ever listen to, if we say so ourselves. I'm here today with Dr. Chris Tufnell, who is the voice of reason in the CatDogFish world.
Hi, Gab.
One of the voices of reason. And today we're also joined by an awesome special guest, Shelley Gregory-Jones. And Shelley is the development director for International Cat Care, which is a world-leading nonprofit feline charity. They can be found at icatcare.org.
It's great to have you with us, Shelley.
It is great. I just want to apologize because we are recording in Shoreditch in London, and what you're hearing is there's some construction going on outside that has not bothered us all morning, and only right now is it now banging away. So if you hear that in the background, it's just because we're part of a thriving metropolis and can't afford to be in a soundproof room. So Shelley, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about iCat Care? What is the organization as to our audience of pet owners, to pet parents, pet parents? Right.
Well, I think International Cat Care is probably a cat charity that many of your listeners won't have heard of because it's actually very unusual. It doesn't do rescue and rehome. So it's an organisation that's focused on advice, information and training. And I think what sets it apart, I suppose, is that it's an organisation that focuses on people, changing people. A lot of cat charities are about saving cats, individual cats, which is wonderful and absolutely necessary. But I think our strong belief is that it's people that are actually causing most of the problems for cats, either through our neglect or our ignorance, or our cruelty, or sometimes an excess of love. And it's about changing people's behaviour towards cats, and that's and understanding cats better is actually the prime motivator for what International Cat Care does. The organisation's been around for 60 years. It was set up in 1958, and like a lot of charities, I suppose, it was set up by a small group of indomitable women who came together in the southwest, and they were all cat owners. They weren't vets, and they felt very strongly at the time that they were just not getting the help for their cats that was needed. So at that time, the veterinary profession was about farm animals, it was about dogs, but really wasn't about cats at all. And these ladies came together, a lady called Joan Judge, unstoppable force in the universe, and decided that things had to change. And she gathered together some friendly vets around her, and pushed very, very hard for changes in veterinary practice, identifying viruses and identifying ways of actually helping chronic diseases for cats. And as a result, over the last 60 years, much has changed, and I think we've been able to help transform feline veterinary medicine.
So, Chris, what do you have to say about the fact that the veterinary profession has been feline had not ranked very highly?
Well, I mean, it's absolutely right. I mean, we were, if you look back at the history, we were very much up until the turn of the sort of previous century, so going from the 1800s into the 1900s, we were essentially horse doctors because agricultural stock probably didn't have the finances behind it before the Industrial Revolution to afford veterinary care, and horses were the principal form of transport. So we were, if you like, the sort of mechanics of the day, in that we were keeping people's essentials transport going. That evolved as the motor car came in and agriculture became more industrial. It evolved from being sort of horse doctors to being farm doctors, and pet animals really didn't get the care they deserved. I mean, firstly, they weren't as popular back then, but they certainly existed, but they probably didn't get the care they deserved, certainly didn't get the emphasis on research and the way we should be treating them, the way we should be handling them, operating on them. But certainly enlightened individuals, both in terms of pet owners, and obviously iCat Care was right there at the advance, and veterinary surgeons who could see that pet ownership was increasing. To a degree, I suppose, see that livestock agriculture was probably not going to fulfill their need in terms of earning them a living, became more and more involved with the care of pet animals, and you'll, if you look at a lot of the organisations like the British Small Animal Veterinary Association, that had its origins around the same time. So I accept the criticism absolutely 100% square on the chin. It's absolutely where we were.
It's not a criticism at all. I think it was part of a natural evolution, I think, and something that I think was just needed a little bit of a push and a little bit of...
we can criticise, Shelley.
No. We love vets, and vets are at the core of what we do, so no criticism implied.
And what's important from what Shelley's saying is that's the relationship isn't one way at all. It's very much, every time we treat an animal, we hope that we're working with the animal owner, the pet parent, to take care of the animal. And so the relationship in developing the veterinary profession into doing the job in the way that it should be done is bound to be two-way. So I'm delighted.
And now we have one of our experts at CatDogFish is Dr. Jeremy Campbell, and he has the London Cat Clinic, which is a vet surgery that's dedicated only to cats. And I think that's pretty interesting. It kind of reminds me of all the attention that's now being paid to female health and the putting money against really understanding the science behind female health more so than the traditional male health in humans. But anyway, it's a really wonderful thing. And so go ahead.
It's also worth saying, I think, that the London Cat Clinic is a cat-friendly clinic, which is a scheme that International Cat Care put together, where we've actually set standards for how cats can be treated to the optimum in a clinical setting. So, London Cat Clinic is amazing.
So hang on, that's a scheme. So for the pet parents out there who aren't in London or aren't close to that particular clinic, should they look for these clinics that are...
Absolutely.
It's a certification?
Absolutely. It's a form of certification. We have bronze, silver and gold standard clinics around the country. And if they look on our website, they'll see there's a full listing of all the cat-friendly clinics that have been accredited in the UK and elsewhere. So,
and what do you have to do to be a cat-friendly clinic?
Oh, quite a lot, actually. It's and depending on the standard that's attained, there's some physical changes that need to be made to some receptions, for example, keeping cats separate from dogs if you've got a mixed clinic. But things like handling techniques and a lot about sort of communicating with the pet owners themselves, as Chris was talking about. So that relationship is absolutely crucial. So cat friendly clinics are something that we'd very much encourage your listeners to seek out.
So we've spoken before about various initiatives. This is one of them. The other one we've just discussed briefly is Fear Free, and if you remember, then we were discussing the fact that the experience that the animal has at the vet, and this is so critical with cats, doesn't start the moment they walk into the consulting room. It starts back in the home when they start preparing for the trip to the vet, and it can be made so much happier and less stressful for the cat if it's prepared for well. And I'm sure that iCat Care will be providing or do provide information to help pet owners know how to do that.
Absolutely, yes.
It reminds me of another one of our experts, Dave Cuff, the London Animal Hospital, because they have a way of separating the dogs from the cats and minimizing the stress on both sides and all of those things that need to be considered. So tell us about the International Declaration of Responsibilities to Cats.
Right, so International Cat Care is 60 years old this year, and I think we've talked about how we've worked from our beginnings in the sort of veterinary slant, but over the years we've started to think more about health, not just health but welfare, and also the plight of unowned cats around the world. So the International Declaration is a very broad document. It tries to do a lot of things. It sets out key responsibilities for all the stakeholders involved in caring for cats. So whether it's governments making policy, local organisations, and the community helping cats themselves, the veterinary community, pet owners themselves. It's setting standards. It's trying to set a raft of standards that we hope will be adopted across the world. And so global. So it's important to note that this is global. It's an international document. It's a global document. And we would very much encourage people to sign up to it. it's international. So for pet owners themselves, there's a set of responsibilities that we'd like people to sign up to. So things like taking care when you choose your cat originally. So at the outset, so that you don't go for something that's a cat that's the result of extreme breeding, for example, that can't breathe or has.
We've talked a lot about that. Yeah.
I think you've talked about brachycephalic cats and the problems to do with that, and the fact that Scottish fold cats have sort of genetic problems that actually cause them to be in quite a lot of pain from arthritis because of the cartilage problems that they suffer.
Scottish fold cats,
beautiful dropped ears, but the fact that they have dropped ears is because of a cartilage problem, which is a genetic problem. So I think one of the underlying drivers for international cat care is about understanding the cat's needs. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful to love cats and to enjoy their company, but understanding where they're coming from is absolutely crucial, and understanding what whether they're in pain, because it's quite difficult to know sometimes whether they're in pain. Understanding what their behavioural needs are. So if you love a cat, you may think, oh, it's fabulous. I'll dress it up in a tutu because that looks wonderful. But does the cat really want to do that? There's you may think, I love my cat so much.
Shelley.
I'll get another one because wouldn't it be great that they're happy together? Not all cats want that. They want they're quite happy to be at home. They want all your attention and all your love, and they don't really want another cat around.
Shelley, and knowing whether they're in pain or discomfort or even just being inhibited, am I right in saying that some brachycephalic breeds we have developed a reputation for being quiet cats, and actually we're now finding that the reason that they're potentially quiet is because they can't get enough oxygen into their bodies to be anything other?
That is horrifying. That is just ridiculous.
Well, it's useful that this work's being done to find this out, because the most important thing is to inform people of these things and allow them to make informed decisions.
Rather than sit and blindly judge I do.
Some people make some interesting informed decisions, one might say. But certainly, brachycephalic breeds have come to the fore in awareness now, and certainly looking at some of these cat breeds and if you see, again, as I've mentioned before, the CT scans, MRIs of their noses, it's any wonder they are struggling to get enough oxygen in. So.
And I think it's a progressive problem in the sense that if you look at photographs of these cats 50 years ago, the conformity issues were absolutely nothing like they are now, and it's to do with this sort of this aesthetic need to have something that's more and more and more extreme, and I think so we are creating a problem that is actually going to get worse.
So it's the Kardashian effect has hit the cat world, and it's just
yes, I think yes, that's right, nicely branded.
Ugh. So it's worth saying that this that there is a responsibility. So in the International Declaration of Responsibilities, there is one of the stakeholders is responsibility of those involved in breeding and selling cats, and you outlined very specifically what those responsibilities are. Chris, I interrupted you.
No, I mean I think that's right, and I think the fascinating thing about this declaration, and forgive me because this is the first time I've had a chance to look at it carefully, is the care that you've gone into to address an international picture. It's always difficult to do that because under the responsibility for veterinary professionals, there are some things here, and you do make that point, which would be against the law here. So obviously the cosmetic surgery that you've talked about, declawing, cosmetic surgery against the law for us to perform in this country. But also some of these things vets would see as very much their duty and not just their professional responsibility, so providing pain relief when required and to provide humane euthanasia. But it is important to understand this is for an international market, and there are other areas of the world where vets' expertise is still very much in other species, not concentrating on felines, and felines will have a different status in terms of the way that they're looked upon and valued as pets. So no, this is a fantastic.
Yes, we're trying to be pragmatic. We know that change takes a while, and we know that things aren't easy to shift in terms of attitudes and behaviour. So yes, thank you. I think it is very important for us to be pragmatic and to allow people to move at the pace that is appropriate for them.
Okay, so every pet parent out there who we would really strongly encourage to sign the declaration.
Yes, please.
And we can find the link to that. We will have, we already have it on CatDogFish's Twitter feed, on our Facebook page, on our website. You can go to icatcare.org and you'll find it. Okay, I sign this. What does that do? Then what?
It helps us, it gives us a lot more leverage.
Like, where do you deliver this with all of its signatures? What do you do with that?
Well, it is on change.org, so it does look like a sort of a regular petition. But I think we're just accumulating at the moment. We're accumulating as many voices as we can. It's taking us quite a long time to get out and gather. We want it to be truly representative of an international audience as well. So rather than a sort of a short, quick gathering campaign,
yeah.
It's going to be quite a long drawn out one. But the more people who sign, the more that we can actually have some leverage with the governments that we talk to, international veterinary organisations that we talk to, and we're getting a lot of support. Just recently, the Italian breeders have all signed up to the declaration, which was a phenomenal thing to have
really
done. So
great.
I think it's we're learning too that this is actually quite a powerful document, and that we can actually use it to try and get people trying to change minds on a large scale.
So tell me real quickly, you mentioned as well about when people go on holiday.
Yes.
And they see these feral cats. My sister does this all the time. She spends most of her time on holiday going to the store, buying big bags of pet food and putting all the dry food out on the sidewalks. And it ruins her holiday half the time because she thinks about them, and she's a very kind person. So tell me, what do you do in those situations?
Well, so firstly, I think you're absolutely right. Your sister's experience is one of the ones I hear. I mean, my job, I have a wonderful job as development director to go out and engage with our community. And one of the things that people tell me without fail is that they've been on holiday, they've had exactly the same experience as your sister, and they feel helpless, and that they feel very unhappy about it all, and that they've done what they can while they've been there. They've left these cats not knowing what's going to happen to them in future. So I think a lot of the work that we're trying to do is with the declaration as well, is to try and get collaborations that will actually help these cats in greater numbers. So there are some phenomenal homing centres out throughout the world who really fight against a rising tide. There's so many cats to help, they don't know what to do. So what we're trying to do is trying to talk to governments to try and get the laws changed, trying to get policies changed in different countries. That's what the declaration is trying to set standards that people sign up to, get the veterinary communities engaged more, do lots more training in trapping, neuter and return. Looking also at some of the amazing new innovations that are coming through that are essentially forms of cat contraceptive that have been in use in the cat breeding world for a long time, but may have a role to play, or we hope will have a role to play in reducing feral colonies and allowing numbers to be more manageable. So there's a lot of ways to do getting more collaboration across the board between all the stakeholders, training vets out in areas where they can perform trapping, neutering and returning, and looking at some of these innovations as well.
So Shelley, where are some interesting places that we should support and go? So if I'm booking a holiday, honestly, what governments are listening to you and doing some interesting things versus those that could not give a rat's?
Oh yeah, but hold on. It's really interesting. I hear reports back from people similar to your sister. I don't know your sister's situation like this. And what I'm hearing from Shelley is that iCatCare are definitely not criticising the local community.
Oh, I am.
For this. I know. And this is what I've done a lot of work in some of these countries, and you hear it quite often. People come back and say, it's appalling the state of the animals are in out there. And I always encourage people to look at the state of the children, because actually very rarely are these people intentionally causing harm to animals. It's because of resources, it's because of their in terms of time and finance and yes, attitudes. But I don't hear Shelley and iCatCare criticising them. This is helping from the point of view of awareness and ability to do things about cat populations or whatever. And so So I think that's really critical, isn't it, Shelley? Because it's a sort of hearts and minds when you're working in these places to get local populations engaged with looking after their animals.
Very much so. I say we're a very pragmatic organisation, and we know that time, that change takes time, and that most people, as you say, are trying to do what they can under very difficult circumstances quite often. So it really is a question of finding what changes will work, what changes people are open to, and seeing what how we can kind of facilitate that change through lots of different ways of working. And we've got some expertise to offer. We don't know everything. We're learning lots all the time. But I think there is an opportunity here, I think, to start making to make a difference on a bigger scale, really.
We're running out of time, but I wanted to ask, how did you join the organization? What's been your journey to working with iCat Care?
Funnily enough, actually, I joined initially as a trustee. This was back in, a friend of mine said, you've really got to get involved in this organisation. I said, I've never heard of them. This is extraordinary. I've worked in the charity sector all my career and have always worked with animals throughout my life. So I was very surprised I'd not heard of it. And then I went to the first strategy meeting as a trustee, and I was just blown away. I was just really so impressed by an organisation that really focuses on developing understanding, because that seemed to be absolutely right. And it's an organisation that has done so much quietly but consistently over the years. And I think its time has come, actually. I think, and certainly getting into the world of unowned cats, I'm very proud to be part of this organisation. It's a great one.
And it's clearly an organisation that knows how to party, because we've got some recipes here for, I will leave it up to everybody's imagination to what these are for. So we've got a mojito, meow garita.
Shelley brought in, iCat Care has published recipes for...
And a Fellini with Prosecco. So
recipes for cocktails that, there's one called Sourpuss.
Yes.
Ginger Tom.
Yeah. No, there's
so how
a few
can we
more.
Find these recipes?
Well, as part of our 60th anniversary celebrations, we decided that we wanted to hold cat cocktail parties, and we've been holding them around the world, actually. And yes, if you go onto our website and you look under the about section and the 60th anniversary celebrations, you'll see all the recipes. And if you want to hold a party yourself, then we've got various kit. There's quizzes and all sorts of extra bits and pieces for photographs and stuff. So it's yes, it's quite they've been great fun.
Plan.
It does. It really does.
We had one in Montpellier the other day, but they wouldn't do cocktails. They had to have wine.
Of course.
But they've all been great fun.
Bless them. Oh, good.
And the French love a raffle. I didn't know that either.
Who knew? Well, now that they've won the football. One final thing. This is something that Chris and I like to do on every podcast, is talk about a new piece of pet tech or something, a startup or something that's come onto the scene that we like or dislike, but we do comment on it. And it's not a formal review because we haven't ordered in all these things and tried them and used them properly. We really just sit in judgment of them. What has come across your desk lately? Is there a piece of kit or a harness or a toy or something that you've seen lately that you think is really interesting or that's really crap that you just think is worthless?
Well, it's interesting because International Cat Care annually has awards for innovation. So we have our cat-friendly awards looking at new products. We also have a thing called the Easy to Give Awards, which are about medicines that are actually easy to give to cats because cats are notoriously difficult to give medicines to.
I have to do that thyroid thing to one of my guys.
So things like, there are some phenomenal products out there like Licky Licks, which actually help you get the medicines down them. But I think something that I've seen that I think is there's a company called Shaw Pet Care. They used to be called Shaw Flap, who invented the or certainly were very early in delivering the microchip cat flaps. And what they've done is they've started to bring it all together around the Internet of Things, so that you've got your cat flap, you've got your feeder, and you can start to get a lot of information from how much the cat is eating, how often it's going out, and actually starting to build a very full picture of your cat's behaviour, which is something that you can use to work with your vets with. So I think that sort of thing is, because again, it's about understanding your cats. I mean, there are some lovely things out there. I mean, it's an amazingly flourishing time for all sorts of things to do with cats.
Well, there's a lot of
that
crap
sort of thing.
too, Shelley, isn't there?
Yes, we don't like to criticise, but yes, there's some crap. And if things are dangerous or unworthy of people's spending power, then we would say so. But it's things like that, I think, where the information is coming through. It's fascinating, that you can actually now shut the cat flap from your app wherever you are. You can actually have a little picture of who might be looking in your cat flaps window.
Oh, wow.
So who may be an intruder. So you can measure how much your cat is eating. So if your cat's only getting 50 grams of food a day from you, but seems to be putting on an awful lot of weight, then you might be able to think it seems to be going out an awful lot. Well, maybe you can start to draw some conclusions, because the cat won't tell you. So I think it's that sort of thing which I think could be quite a game changer.
And one of the best examples I've seen is the litter tray that weighs the cat every time it visits.
Exactly.
I mean,
I've never heard of that.
Exactly.
And is picking up way before the cat owner is that it's weeing more, therefore drinking more,
wow.
probably got
What's
kidney
that
disease.
called?
And then there are some that there are colour changes that sort of give you an indication of what might be in the urine, that sort of thing. So all that sort of thing is
There's some
becoming
great
quite
innovations coming in.
All right.
which can
Well, we
help the cat.
will talk about those as well.
Oh, there's lots
Shelley,
to talk about.
thank you so much. We would love to
Shelley,
have you
thank you.
on other podcasts. So we hope to hear your dulcet tones on the podcast as a frequent visitor. And in the meantime, please go and sign the declaration. We all have, and send it to everybody you know who is an avid pet owner. They don't have to own cats, but they certainly have to care about it. So icatcare.org, and again on CatDogFish.com, we will have that information as well. Thanks a lot, Shelley.
Thank you for
Thanks,
having
Shelley.
me. It's been lovely. Thank you.
Bye.
For information on how to take expert care of your pet, go to CatDogFish.com.